Om. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. Samasta Janakalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yatkripa Tamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam Paramananda Madhavam. We'll start reading from verse number 54. Arjuna Uvacha Sthitaprajnasya ka bhasha Samadhistasya Keshava Sthitadih kim prabhasheta Kimasita vrajeta kim. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Prajahati yada kaman Sarvan parthamanogataan Atmanyevatmana tushtaha Sthitaprajnastadochate. Dukkeshvanudvignamanaha Sukheshu vigatasprihaha Vitaragabhaya krodhaha Sthitadir muniruchyate. Yassarvatranabhisnehaha Tattat prapya shubhashubham Nabhinandati nadveshti Tasya prajna pratishtita. Yada samharate chayam Kurmongani vasarvashaha Indriyani indriyarthebhyaha Tasya prajna pratishtita. Vishaya vinivartante Niraharasya dehinaha Rasavarjam rasopyasya Param drishtva nivartate. Okay. So Arjuna's question, Sthitaprajnasya ka bhasha. What makes a Sthitaprajna? Who samadhistasya keshava? Who engages in samadhi? Sthitadih kim prabhasheta. How does this Sthitaprajna, this person of steady wisdom, enlightened being, how do they speak? Kimasita. How do they sit? Prajeta kim. How do they interact in the world? We saw then in verse 55, the mula, the root is, Sthitaprajna is free from any worldly desires, is desireless because they are ever content in the self. Being this way, their attitude or outlook in life is very different because they don't need anything from the world. What is their speech prompted by? So we saw in verses 56 and 57, their speech is prompted by equanimity. In that which appears to be sorrow, they don't get disturbed. In that which appears to be joy, they don't crave for it and want to prolong it. And they are without fear and anger and attachment. Without attachment, therefore, without fear or without anger. And furthermore, we saw last week that they are not attached to other people and other beings. So they don't praise unnecessarily or, criticize or harm someone unnecessarily. They are free from that. They don't hold or harbor hate in their hearts, nor do they hold or harbor any attachment. So what they speak, their speech is prompted by truth, because they don't really need anybody. Sometimes when we want to keep someone in our lives, we say all kinds of things which we don't mean just to keep that person. Or sometimes when we feel angry towards a person, we say all things we don't mean because we're so angry, because we're so hurt by that person. But the speech of a Sthitaprajna is not prompted by such things because they don't really need anybody. And that's why their relationship with anyone is very pure. All they're looking at is how can we evolve and how can we grow. Their speech is prompted by love, which is very, very different from attachment. It's prompted by love. So how does a Sthitaprajna speak? Out of pure love for you, for me, for those around them. How does a Sthitaprajna sit? So we saw that also last week. Like a turtle. Like a turtle, a Sthitaprajna sits. How a turtle, when the turtle senses some kind of danger coming, what does it do? It withdraws all of its limbs, its head, its tail, its arms, its legs. It withdraws itself into its shell and stays there. And when it feels that it's safe, then again, it goes out. So is a Sthitaprajna scared? Not at all. Out of love, they withdraw. They sit quietly, ever reveling the self out of love. And they withdraw their senses completely. Just like how a turtle withdraws all six, the Sthitaprajna withdraws all six. Sometimes for us, it is hard to control one. So sometimes we can control our sense of smell. Sense of smell is not hard. Sense of touch, sense of hearing, sense of sight we can control, but sometimes taste we can't control. Or sometimes sight we can't control. So sometimes there's always this one indriya, one faculty, which we find very hard to master or control, but they're able to just withdraw all of them completely and effortlessly. So you see this word, that verse, sarvashaha. That sarvashaha means all of these faculties completely and effortlessly, and they sit quietly. And the person who can master their senses this way is called a Sthitaprajna. That's why, in our Hindu temples, in some of them, when you go to the entrance, before you go into the temple, you will see a turtle. There will be a turtle there. What is that turtle? That turtle is to remind us to withdraw and come inside, because we're going to approach the divine. So whenever we see a turtle, that's the reminder. You think of a Sthitaprajna. How do we take that as a sadhana? As seekers, we must protect our seeking. If there are things which we feel will be harmful to our minds, to our senses, then we must stay away. No point in going out there. If we're not strong enough, if we know we won't be able to say no, then why go out there and why subject ourselves to such kind of temptation, which is very difficult to resist? So for us, the message here is avoid these situations which create temptation, which create disturbance in our mind, and protect our seeking, like a turtle. When we are mature enough, when we are established enough, then it doesn't matter where we are, we will be fine. But as we are still all beginners in this path of seeking, we must be careful. Now, what happens is we are able to master our senses or to control our senses for some time. And everyone's able to do this, right? For a Zoom class, hopefully you're like a turtle, right? You put everything away, your phone away, your food away, all these kinds of conversations. Hopefully you put everything away and you're withdrawn. But after that, it's like we go wild again, isn't it, right? We're withdrawn for a while. After that, we go back out and we do all kinds of things. Why is it that we're able to only control or master our senses for a certain amount of time? After that, they go wild again. Why? And we started verse number 59 last time. The answer is because the craving is still there. So yes, we might withdraw our senses. We might avoid those situations which can create temptation. But you know what? The craving is still there. So what this verse says is, let's say we go to a party. We go to a party and we know we can't eat sweets, right? There's some sickness, you can't eat sweets. So you don't touch it. You don't eat it. But what's in your mind? Oh my gosh, that cake looks so good. I really, really want to eat it. Why can't I eat it? Or let's say, you know, you're not going to go anywhere, right? You want to be safe. You don't want to go to any big party or anything like that. You don't want to go anywhere. You want to be safe. But inside you're thinking, how was that party? I wonder who went. Are they having fun? So your senses might not be engaged there, but the mind is, because the craving is still there. And that's what it says in verse 59. It says, Vishaya vinivartante. It says Vishayaha. The objects, the sense objects, vinivartante, they turn away from who? Niraharasya dehinaha. From that dehin, the person who niraharasya, who is not indulging in them, the sense objects will turn away. But rasavarjam, leaving the craving in the mind. So the sense or objects might turn away, but the craving will still be there. Rasaha api, that rasa or that craving, nivartate, will go. When? Param drishtva, when the glimpse of the truth is attained, even that craving will go. So in 59, it says, the objects of the senses turn away from the abstinent man, leaving the longing behind. But his longing also turns away on seeing the Supreme. So how do we see this? In life, when we start turning away from certain objects, they start also leaving us. And this is a fact. So, for example, we're on some mailing list and we click unsubscribe. Then what happens? We won't get those mails anymore. Somebody is calling us and you block that number. You won't get that phone call anymore. You become a vegetarian. So nobody will serve you meat or other kinds of foods anymore. You stop hanging out in a certain social group, but they won't also invite you anymore, isn't it? So when you turn away, when we turn away from a certain thing, that object will leave us. It will go. People will stop inviting us. People will stop serving us certain things. certain mails or phone calls will stop coming to us because we turn them away. And we should. Those things that create temptation, we should turn them away. And the turning away should be quite firm. You know, sometimes we are very, what do I say, very soft with turning away. Say, no, it's okay, I don't want it. That means people are still going to give it to you. It has to be a very, very firm no. No, I don't want it. I remember in Sandipani, you know, once in a while we get a bhiksha, and sometimes it's this banana leaf one. That one's very hard because if you say no, that doesn't work. They'll still put so much food in your plate. So you literally have to say no. You literally have to cover your plate. Then only they won't put so much food in your plate. So what I'm trying to say is that sometimes we say no, but that no doesn't have strength. It's like, no, it's okay, I don't want it. And so the other person will say, well, they really want it, which is, you know, saying no. That no has to have strength. If I can't do it, if I can't have it, it should be no. And we turn away from that. The objects also go, but the taste is still there. It's like we still want it. We still crave for it. We're still thinking about it. When does this craving go? This craving will only go param drishtva, when we have the glimpse of the truth. When we have a glimpse of the truth, this craving will go. What is this glimpse of the truth? Glimpse of the truth means this knowledge. When we have an understanding, glimpse, an understanding of this knowledge, a taste of this knowledge, or you can even say a glimpse of devotion towards God or devotion towards that which is higher. When we have a taste for the higher, a taste for satsanga, a taste for spiritual practice, a taste for service, when we have a glimpse, a taste for the higher, for Sthitaprajna, this param drishtva means realization of the truth, then the taste for the lower will go. See, in Vedanta, it's not about trying to control everything. You know, work with this, work with that. It's not really like that. All we have to do is keep our mind engaged in the higher. Keep it engaged in the pursuit of truth, of study, of satsanga. Keep it in good company. Keep it in spiritual practices. When the mind is kept at such a high place, the taste for the lower, that will also go. You also won't crave it anymore. You won't feel like it, like engaging in it anymore. What is an example of this? In Bhaja Govinda, there's this very beautiful verse. Balastavat krida sakta, taruni stavat taruni sakta. What does this mean? When we were children, we were so attached to toys, you know, cars, dolls, whatever it is, all different kinds of toys. But the minute we became teenagers, what happened? Some very beautiful girl smiled at you, or some very handsome guy waved at you, and you forgot about your toys. You're not into toys anymore, or dolls or cars. You want a pager, you want a phone so that you can talk to this guy or girl who smiled at you. You don't want your toys anymore. Was it very hard for you to drop your toys? No, you just saw that smile of that beautiful girl or that wave of that handsome boy, and you're take it. That's it. All your cars and toys and dolls, everything you have, you give it to your younger siblings or your cousins or whoever else, you give it away. Param drishtva. You see the smile of truth. You see the smile of God. You witness that connection with God, even if it's just a glance, even if it's just a moment. You're ready to let everything else go. The taste for the lower goes when the taste of the higher is attained. It doesn't even say, it's not even an actual full realization of the higher. Even just a taste helps. Of course, for Sthitaprajna, it's a full realization of the higher. And that's why it's very easy to drop the world. For Puja Gurudev, if you remember in his movie On a Quest, he was chewing gum. And somebody asked Puja Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda ji, you're such a successful journalist, you know? Why did you leave that career? Why did you give it up? And so Gurudev looked at that person. He was chewing gum. He said, what do you have in your mouth? He said, gum. When will you spit it out? And he said, when it loses its taste. So Gurudev said, the world lost its taste. And so I spat it out. The world lost its taste and I spat it out. So for a Sthitaprajna, it's the full realization of the truth. You can drop the world. You can drop the craving for the world. It's not there anymore. In fact, you don't actually drop it, it just falls off. For us, even a glimpse will help. Before Gurudev was Swami Chinmayananda ji, he had a glimpse of Swami Shivananda ji. He went to Rishikesh to interview Swami Shivananda ji. He had a glimpse of that saint and his whole life changed. He did not want to go back to his old way of living. He said, I'm done. There's no way. So when we have a glimpse of the higher, whether it's a physical glimpse of a saint or sage, whether it's this connection to the scriptures or to the truth, or devotion to God, those lower tendencies will go. So the dharma of a seeker is to connect to the higher and stay connected to the higher at all times, as far as possible. Because when we are connected, then there's nothing that can pull us out. There was one poor man. There was a talk of Buddha, and so everyone is going to see Buddha, and this poor man was going, and it was pretty cold. And so this rich man said, here, take the shawl, so you will feel warm. So the poor man took the shawl, and they went for the talk. They all sat there. And of course, after the talk, Buddha was there, and everyone was lining up to give Guru Dakshina. There's something to Buddha. So this poor man said, should I give or should I not give? Because everyone's giving, so why should I give? Anyway, so many people are giving, why should I give? Let them give. But then another part of him said, I should give. It's my dharma to give. He gave such a beautiful talk. It's my dharma to give. And if all I have is this shawl, I'll give this shawl. And so his mind was very fickle. One part of his mind was like, why should I give? Everybody else is giving. Let them give. I don't have so much. But the other part of his mind was saying, no, give. It's your dharma to give. And he kept thinking, should I give? Should I not give? Should I give? Should I not give? Buddha just looked at him and just smiled. Immediately, that man took the shawl and offered it at the feet of Buddha and said, this is for you. This is all I have. I hope that it's okay. And he left. param drishtva nivartate. Just that glimpse, and you feel like everything's gone. This is how that craving goes. So the more we stay connected to the higher, the more the lower will fall off. It will go off. So our dharma is to keep our mind in a higher place as far as we can, as often as we can. And that's really important. So this is verse number 59. Now somebody might ask, what if that craving doesn't go? What if that craving doesn't go? I'm able to control my senses for some time, but that craving is not going. It's still there. Oh, he says, well, be careful. If that craving doesn't go, we're in for a ride. This is what he says in verse number 60. So we'll read 60. Yatato hyapi kaunteya.
Yatato yapi kaunteya.
Purushasya vipashchitaha.
Purushasya vipashchitaha.
Indriyani pramathini.
Indriyani pramadhini.
Haranti prasabham manaha.
Haranti prasabham manaha.
Yatato hyapi kaunteya. Purushasya vipashchitaha. Indriyani pramathini. Haranti prasabham manaha. So he says, O Kaunteya, O Arjuna, O Kaunteya, he says, Yatataha api, even those who are striving, Purushasya vipashchitaha, of that man, of that being who's striving, and vipashchitaha, who's learned, who's wise. Indriyani pramathini, the senses can be so turbulent. Pramathini means turbulent. Haranti, and they can carry away prasabham, violently, the mind. They can carry the mind very violently. Manaha. The turbulent senses, O son of Kunti, do violently carry away the mind of a wise man, though he be striving to control them. So this is what happens. If that craving is not gone, we will be carried away again. And who will be carried away? Not an ordinary being. Yatataha, one who's sincerely striving on the path. Yatataha, vipashchitaha, one who's come to satsang, who's listening, who's reflecting, who's even contemplating, one who's vipashchit, who's wise. Even they can be dragged away. Even they can be dragged away violently. The mind can be dragged by the senses. Why? Although sense objects are inert, our liking for them is so powerful. In Viveka Chudamani, I'm sure some of you are familiar with this text. Adi Shankaracharya ji gives two very beautiful examples. The first one is a set of 5 examples. And he shows how 5 animals who cannot control themselves, they lead to their own death. It leads to their own death. So we start with the sense of hearing. And the animal that's taken here is a deer. A deer. What happens? The deer loves sound, the mridanga. So the hunters purposely play this sound to have the deer come out so they can hunt them. And so the deer, just anytime they hear the mridanga, they run towards that sound and the hunter shoots at them and they lose their life. They cannot control that sound. A fish, this we are very familiar with, the sense of taste. Huh? So when people are fishing, they put bait in the water. And the fish know it's bait. I mean, how many times you'll see it's bait? You know it's bait, right? But they cannot control their tongue. They can't control their tongue. And so they nibble on the bait. And once you nibble on the bait, you're gone. You're pulled. You're going to be eaten. You're going to be eaten. They could not control their taste. Similarly, a moth is so attracted to light. But when it flies towards light, it loses its life. It cannot control its sense of sight. A bee is given for the sense of smell. A bee loves to go to different flowers for pollen, but there are certain flowers that will close. They will close at a certain time. So when the bee nibbles there, it, goes there to that flower and loses that control, the flower closes and the bee meets its death. The elephant in mating season is very, very eager to be with a she-elephant, very eager. So what do? They put the she-elephants in front of the male elephants, but in between they put a trap. They put like a little trap. And so when the male elephants go towards the she-elephants, they fall. It's very sad. And then these elephants are captured. Now they cannot control their touch, sense of touch. Knowingly, they lose themselves in these objects. And this is each animal linked to one sense object that they can, sense organ that they cannot control. What to talk of us? We have all of these 5 sense organs which we cannot control. We also meet our death. What is our death? Our death is all of this, the draining, that the organs become drained, they become weak, they become overused. All of these things happen because the mind is just violently carried away. Another example that he gives is this black cobra. Black cobra. He says, do you know that sense objects are more powerful than a black cobra? This is the exact verse. Doshena tivro vishayaha. He says that these objects are so powerful. Why? A black cobra has to sting you, then you get poisoned. But by our mere look at an object, our mind gets poisoned. A black cobra has to come towards us, sting us, and then we get poisoned. But just us looking at a certain object, our mind goes for a toss. It goes for a toss. It can consume us. And what to talk of the society we live in? The advertisements, the billboards are so catchy. They're so catchy. And not only are they catchy, but they're everywhere. You're driving and they're there. You are searching something on a website and that they will figure out what your demographic is, what your likes are, and that very advertisement will come. You get into a cab, you will see again screens. We're surrounded by it. It's there all the time. So if we are not alert, our minds can get captured by the sense objects. If we are not alert, if that craving is still there, again, we will fall prey to these temptations. Someone might ask, but I mean, is it really that bad of a deal, to fall into these temptations, to fall prey to this? Just think about it, right? Think about it. What happens when we indulge so much? When we indulge excessively, what happens? The first thing that happens is we lose our sense of discrimination. We lose our viveka. Think about Black Friday. And this verse is Black Friday. Think about what happens at Black Friday. People just get lost. People just get lost. There's, people will push each other, hit each other, do this, do that, just to get one small petty object at half the price, right? So that sense of discrimination gets lost when we are not able to control our senses. What else happens? When we overindulge, we indulge too much, we eat too much, we sleep too much, we go out too much, our whole system becomes weak. We become fat, lazy, and we are absolutely useless to the world. We fail to fulfill our purpose in life. We tell people we're so busy, we have no time. We have no time, but we have time to eat so much. We have no time, but we have time to sleep so much and laze around so much, right? We don't realize our full potential when we indulge too much. When we indulge in unnecessary things, we don't fulfill our potential. Remember, our purpose, our goal in life is to realize this truth. That takes effort. If we sit around here and do whatever we want, it's not going to happen. So he says here, be very careful. If that craving doesn't go, we will again lose control. We will again lose control. And the problem that we have is that our minds are like spoiled children. We're so used to giving into our minds. Our mind says, okay, it's okay to laze around a little bit. Okay, it's okay to, watch too much of something. It's okay. We give into our minds so much. It's okay to eat a little more. Okay, we give into our minds so much. It's like a spoiled child. So when you hold the mind back, it becomes very difficult. So it's a seeker's dharma to work with that mind. But then the question becomes, how do I work with that mind? Let's say I have this problem. I have this issue that I'm able to control my senses to a certain extent, not full extent, because the craving is still there. What do I do? How do I make this work? How do I work with my mind? So very practically, Lord Sri Krishna tells us the exact answer to how to work with one's mind. So verse number 16:1. Tani sarvani samyamya.
Tani sarvani samyamya.
Yukta asita matparaha.
Yukta asita matparaha.
Vashe hi yasyendriyani.
Vashe hi yasyendriyani.
Tasya prajna pratishtita.
Tasya prajna pratishtita.
Tani sarvani samyamya. Yukta asita matparaha. Vashe hi yasyendriyani. Tasya prajna pratishtita. So what he says here is, Tani sarvani samyamya. Tani sarvani, them all the sense organs, samyamya, having restrained them, yuktaha, one who is yoked, who's joined, asita, one should sit joined, matparaha, intent on me. And how? With the senses vashe, under control of that person who can do this. Yasya indriyani, of who can do this through their sense organs. Tasya prajna pratishtita. Their prajna, their wisdom is steady. Having restrained them all, he should sit steadfast, intent on me. His wisdom is steady, whose senses are under control. So remember, the question that we're dealing with is, how does Sthitaprajna sit? Right? How does Sthitaprajna sit? So kim asita. So that very word asita you'll see here. Now, in this verse, the key word is matparaha. Matparaha's son. Matparaha means thinking of me, dedicated to me, surrendered to me, with love for me, is called matparaha. That is how one should manage their sense organs. In life, there are ways where, there are ways which we respond to the world. Let's say something happened to us. Something happened to us. So one thing, let's say anger. Anger will come up in the next verse. So let's say anger. We can introduce this concept. Anger happens. Anger rises, right? So there are some people who believe that I should just express. Whatever I'm feeling, I should just express. I should just say whatever I feel. And that's how I should live my life. So very, very expressive, but indiscriminately. No, so not to say what I should speak, what I should not speak, just I should express whatever I want to express. So there's no sense of discrimination. There's no sense of thinking about other people. There's no sense of, is this the right time? I just feel it, so I'm going to do it. The second type of person suppresses. Suppresses means that they just keep it inside. I feel it, I'm not going to say it. I feel it, I'm just going to keep it inside. What happens when we suppress? When we suppress, one day we will explode. One day we will explode. You all know. Any anger that's bottled up inside, when the last straw hits, wow, what's going to happen is a major thunderstorm there. It might, and that last straw might even be that the dinner is late or this person came late. That's very petty, but it just might be a very big eruption because that's something that's suppressed. But what Vedanta says is not to express indiscriminately, not to suppress so that one day we will explode, but to sublimate. This sublimate is called matparaha. Sublimate means that whatever anger, whatever negativity I'm feeling or is there, surrender it to the feet of Bhagavan. Didn't tell Bhagavan, please take this because I want to think higher. I want to understand. I want to know more. So you please take care of this anger. You please take care of whatever is going on inside of me and keep the mind in a higher place. When we keep the mind in a higher place, these lower tendencies, feelings, they have nowhere to stay. They cannot stay in you anymore. Now I'm going to give you now a practical difference between suppression and sublimation, using just a very basic example. So you'll know what this matparaha means. You know what it means. Let's say somebody has diabetes and they cannot have sweets. And so they go somewhere to a party and there's lots of nice food there. And so the thing is, they get that they have diabetes, but they don't really get it. They get that they have it, but they don't really understand it so well. So it's more like people are just telling them, you can't eat this, you can't eat that, you can't eat this, and they're so upset about it. The second thing is that they follow the diet. They don't eat all these sweets and all of that, but inside they're just feeling so sad. They feel like they're missing out. They feel like they're missing out, and they feel like all of this just doesn't make sense. So when somebody has this attitude, it's one of suppression because it's coming from external force. Either the family or friends are telling them to do something, and there's just no greater goal or understanding. There's no, I want to be healthier. I want to do something better in my life. There's no sense of that. And you really feel like you're missing out. You really feel bummed out. Now, how is it when somebody sublimates? When someone sublimates, that control is coming from inside. I honestly understand that there are some things that I can't eat. There's some things that I can't do. There's some places where I can't go. I understand. And there's a higher goal in life. I want to be healthier. I do want to live a better life. And so when that person does not indulge in certain foods, there is no fear of missing out. It's a joy. It's wow, this time I did not indulge and I feel so much better. My body feels so much better. I feel so much stronger. So when we sublimate, there's a deeper understanding. It comes out of love. It's not this suppression without understanding and just trying to control and just feeling very frustrated about it. But it's really sublimating it to something higher. You have a greater goal, you have a greater purpose. So you feel good. You feel okay about letting the lower things go. One of the best examples of this is if you think of a mother. Just think of a mother, right? And let's say she lived a very luxurious, indulgent life. Let's say she got married and she would travel the world, go to all kinds of restaurants, indulge in all kinds of foods, go to all kinds of places all the time. But now she finds out that she's becoming a mother, and so she's pregnant. What happens? What happens when you're pregnant is that there's certain things you can't eat. There's certain places you can't go. There's certain exercises you can't do anymore. You can't have everything that you want. You have to sleep a certain way. You have to sit a certain way. Your whole life changes because you're bringing life into the world. But yet, would that mother feel like suppressed? No. If the mother was a true mother, she would feel love. This is all okay. It's okay not to eat all of those things, not to go to all of those places, not to run here and run there. It's absolutely okay. Because I'm doing this out of love. Out of love, I'm going to bring life into this world. And therefore, it's absolutely okay. That is called sublimation. When you and I are able to control our senses because of love for something greater than us. It can be anything. It can be a child. It can be a goal. It can be God. It can be truth. But when we have something higher, it becomes much easier to bring our lives in this control. So this is what this verse means, that all of these senses are controlled. To whom? Matparaha, the one who has God as their goal, who has something higher as their goal. They're all controlled, but sublimated, not suppressed, not out of force, but out of love. And why? yuktaha, because this being is integrated. What do you mean by an integrated being? An integrated being is somebody who has a goal, has an overall goal in life, and every part of them is linked to that. So Gurudev says, we have all these personalities. We have a physical personality. We have an emotional, intellectual, and spiritual personality. And sometimes all of our personalities, they conflict with each other. Physical wants to do something else. Emotional wants to do something else. Intellectual, something else. And so there's this whole, personality that's very, very dysfunctional, very disorderly. Yuktaha means that all of my personalities are aligned to the same goal. They're following the same goal. There's harmony inside of me. Everything is harmonious. And so when a person is integrated, when they have this goal that they're very much aligned to, everything becomes easy. Their sense organs come into control automatically. And that person then, prajna, their wisdom is steady. So you'll notice in life, the clearer we are about our goals, or rather our purpose in life, the clearer we are. Listen, the underlying purpose of life is the realization of truth. It's really to be with the self. It's to be in one's self. Every time, every day, we go out. We go to so many places. Go to here, there, everywhere. We travel everywhere. At the end of the day, what do you just want to do? You just want to go home, right? You just want to go home. Wherever you are in the world, whatever you're doing, you just want to go home. You just want to be home. That's the purpose of life. The purpose of life is to be in one's home. It's just to be centered there. That's the purpose of life. And so when we understand that's the underlying purpose, our personality becomes integrated because everything is working towards this purpose. It's not that my body's working for something else, my mind's working for something else, my intellect's working for something else. When that happens, we are not integrated. But when we are all aligned, every single part of us understands our goal and is clear about it, that is called an integrated personality. That person will have absolutely no issues mastering their own senses and mind because they're very clear. When we lack clarity, then so many things become hard to do. Gurudev gives this one example, it's a very beautiful example. He says, let's say you are three friends. You have three friends and you got a room, your roommates, to room together. And you made enough money, so you hired a servant, right? So nobody wants to do anything, so you made enough money, you hired a servant. Okay. So let's say person A says, person A wakes up and says, okay, please make me breakfast. Person B wakes up and says, I don't want this hot breakfast. Go get me fruits from the market. And person C wakes up and says, can you iron my clothes? I have 5 minutes to go before my appointment. And so this servant is like, what do I do? Person A is telling me to make hot breakfast, hot Indian breakfast. Person B is telling me to go to the market, get some fruit. Person C is telling me iron my clothes. This servant is so confused, doesn't know what to do. So what does the servant do? Freezes. It says, you know what? I'm leaving. I don't need the money. I'm going. Our mind is like that. It's getting conflicting orders. It's getting conflicting orders from so many places. So how do you expect it to function at its optimum level? It won't. So in this verse, what becomes really important, as I said, is that matparaha. We must have a higher goal, a higher purpose, and yuktaha, we must be integrated to that purpose. We must be integrated to that. And when that happens, everything comes under control. And you feel good about it. You don't feel sad, you don't feel depressed, you feel good about it. Because everything is beautifully aligned. That is Vedanta. Huh? So today we saw very, very important and beautiful things. And I'll just recap this. So the time passed by a little bit quickly today, but I'll recap this so that it's all in our minds clearly. In verse number 58, Lord Sri Krishna says, Sthitaprajna is one who can be like a turtle, can withdraw all of their sense organs effortlessly. Tasya prajna pratishtita. But then some people wonder, I can withdraw for some time, but after that I go wild again. Why? That rasa, that craving is still there. So that craving also has to go. How will that craving go? Param drishtva, a glimpse of the higher, glimpse of the truth, and that craving will also go. What if that craving doesn't go? We saw in verse 60, if that craving doesn't go, oh no, those sense organs are going to capture the mind, because sense objects are just so powerful. They're so powerful that they can capture your mind and make you go outwards. And then what happens is when we overindulge in the world, we lose our sense of discrimination and we fail to realize our full potential. But what if that's my scenario? What if I can control my sense organs for a certain time? I still have the craving. What should I do? Verse number 61. Matparaha. Sublimate. Don't suppress. Sublimate. Sublimate to a higher goal, a higher purpose. Understand your underlying purpose and be fully integrated towards that. When you are, everything falls into place. As I said, the only dharma that you and I have to do as seekers is only one thing. Keep the mind connected to the higher. Just do that. Just do that. Everything else will happen. Everything else will happen. It's very true. I can tell you because I see it. It's very true. That's all you have to do. You don't have to do this. No, just keep your mind connected to the higher. Your whole life and your lifestyle will change. So, Kim Asita, how does the Sthitaprajna sit? Sits effortlessly, withdrawing himself, herself completely, and that Sthitaprajna sits without a craving for the world, because they have had the vision of God. That's how a Sthitaprajna sits. So you can imagine two people sitting quietly. Outwardly, they might look the same. Inside, the Sthitaprajna has absolutely no craving. Inside the other person, there might be lots of craving, lots of imagination, lots of things going on. That's the difference. That's why you can't tell so much of Sthitaprajna from outside, because so many things are happening inside. Now, next week we will see, what if I really can't control my sense organs? What happens? Well, you're in for a trip. It's going to be the ladder of fall. So as Gurudev says it, we are going to fall miserably. And when we understand this ladder of fall, it will be so clear to us what to do for our sadhana. So I will say the closing prayer, and then please stay back for a few minutes after. I want to tell you about Gita Jayanti, and then I'll answer any questions. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.